Good morning again. My name is Sandra Chapman. I'm the Chief Program Officer for Borough President Eric L. Adams. And on behalf of Borough President Adams, I would like to welcome you here today to the Economic Development Breakfast, the Caribbean American Heritage Economic Development Breakfast. Today, alongside our partners, we will keep working to achieve inclusive economic growth, and that is why we're here today. President Barack Obama, in proclaiming National Caribbean American Heritage Month 2014, and I quote, said, "Through every chapter of our nation's history, Caribbean Americans have made our country stronger, reshaping our politics and realigning the arts, spurring our movements, and answering the call to serve. Caribbean traditions have enriched our own and woven new threads into our cultural fabric. Again and again, Caribbean immigrants and their descendants have reaffirmed America's promise as a land of opportunity, a place no matter where you are or where you come from, you can make it if you try." Today, as we have done in the past 12 years here at Borough Hall, we have had a Deputy Borough President of Caribbean American descent. And so today I would ask you if you would please give a round of applause for our speaker, Deputy Borough President Diana Reyna, who hails to us from the 34th Council District, Chair, when she was in the City Council, of Small Business Committee, how fitting for today. Her district included the neighborhoods of Bushwick and Williamsburg. Please welcome Deputy Borough President Diana Reyna.
Good morning to you all. We are blessed. The sun is out. We have a dynamic group of people in this room who are celebrating with us at Borough Hall. I want to just express our deep regrets for the Borough President is not here physically, but in spirit. Eric has left to join the family of the 6-year-old Prince, whose family is mourning the loss of such a young child, such a young life. And Western Beef has agreed to donate what would be $50,000. And Eric is making sure that that announcement is being shared with the world today, this morning in the hometown of East New York. We're very saddened by that, and we want to pray for every child and their safety. And we're working diligently in making sure that the suspects are being vetted and making sure that there is an arrest that will soon be announced. But having said that, it is important for us to understand our contributions as Caribbean American in Brooklyn, the center of the universe, as our borough president has always mentioned. And of course, letting you know how he wholeheartedly believes you are not here to serve him, but that he is here to serve you. In the month of June, this is Caribbean American Heritage Month. And we want the world to understand that Caribbeans are making their contribution to better the lives of all here in our home borough and throughout the city of New York. And our chief program officer has overseen what is a committee that has led up to this moment. And it is a month of wonderful workshops and events so that it is not just one day we are celebrating, but it is the diaspora that makes us so rich. We come from so much richness. Our music, our culture, our cuisine, everyone wants to experience it. 47% of our Brooklynites speak a language other than English. And it is important that we understand how we come from such a mixed background. And we are not homogeneous. And that is what makes us so special. We are thrilled to be able to open the doors in Borough Hall to celebrate that culture. And it gives me great pleasure to see that leaders within our community, to my left and to my right, are being honored. So you can see that it's not just contributions in words, but it is contributions in action. We have a responsibility to lead Brooklyn into a better tomorrow, a better future, to develop a workforce amongst our communities. And we cannot do that without the partners of what would be the small business community. We have the fastest growing business amongst the immigrant communities. And that is something that we want to harness and continue to protect and continue to empower and invest in. It is the great work of Dr. Roy Hastic, who has continued to express how important it is for us to see what would be the continuation of an investment in the Fulton-Caton market. A round of applause to that work. To have an import-export market, to be able to claim what is the economic empowerment of our communities, because God knows we're continuously trading. We learned that from the roots of where we come from, to barter, to understand what it's like to eat the next day because we've exchanged a chicken for milk back home. And to bring that concept here, to be able to share it amongst communities and ethnic groups, it is what makes us so special. And so I wanted to just congratulate so many of our committee members here today that have made sure that this particular month is enriched with workshops and events. And this morning, may God bless you and continue to protect us all to be able to continue the good work that you're each contributing to our great borough. And on behalf of our borough president, our first African-American borough president here in these halls, in this old building, reinvigorating it so that we can be represented everywhere. And I wanted to just acknowledge, last but not least, our great assembly member, Walter Mosley, who's never misses a beat, who's always here supporting us, supporting the Caribbean nations. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Deputy Borough President. I am going to ask, first I'm going to start because I always leave this to the end and then maybe we forget or we're rushing to go to work. So I would like to acknowledge people who've played a key role in getting us here today, and also those who have who are helping us with this month-long event, as you heard our Deputy Borough President mention. So will the committee, the Caribbean American Heritage Committee members, please stand? All the Caribbean American, you guys know who you are, yeah? Please stand. I want to thank you for your hard work on behalf of Borough President Eric Adams. The other group that I really need to thank also is the staff of Borough Hall. I asked them to gather, so maybe as they come in, when we get them in, I'll come back so that you see who are the faces here at Borough Hall. Some new faces, but a lot of old faces. You've heard everyone mention our convener today, Dr. Roy A. Hastic, Sr., founder and CEO of Caribbean American Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I need not to say too much about this amazing gentleman. He has been a partner here at Brooklyn Borough Hall, a partner for Brooklyn under the Chamber for many years. I don't want to say how many years because then, you know, it probably date me and not him. So please put your hands together to welcome Dr. Roy A. Hastic, who has collaborated with us here today with this amazing, amazing event. Thank you, Dr. Hastic.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow, I didn't expect this morning. Oh, it's always a pleasure being with you and also being at Borough Hall, this historic Brooklyn Borough Hall, and I feel invigorated, energized every time I come here, especially under the leadership of the first African-American Borough President of Brooklyn, this great borough of 2.6 million people. Also under the leadership of our Deputy Borough President, Diana Rayner, who I was just sharing with her that when we were working on the invitation and the program, we wanted to make sure that the Dominican Republic was not left out. And the reason is because the Dominican Republic is actually getting involved to be a part of CARICOM. And whenever I meet with her with delegations, she reminds me that Dominican Republic is in the Caribbean. So let's give our distinguished Deputy Borough President a round of applause. To our Chief Operating Officer, our Chief Program Officer, former deputy, who is working very, very, very closely and well with the team and work with the committee, hard-working committee for the Caribbean American Heritage Month, our 9th year. Thank you very much, Sandra, for all your hard work and all what you're doing. I echo the sentiments of the Deputy Borough President when she gave you the accolades of being someone that worked very hard on the committee. To our chairman of the board, our distinguished chairman, Mr. Edmund Sadio, president of Century 21 Achievers. Good to see you, sir. To the chair of the Borough President Transition Team, Oliver Duras, good to see you. Thank you very much for being here. Also want to recognize the honorees on the dais. Congratulations to all of the honorees. You have done well, and you'll be honored today by our deputy and the Borough President of Brooklyn. I want to give a special shout out to the youngest lady in the room. She's in the late 90s, and she happened to be from my country, Halbert James, which is a small island called Grenada. Dame Helen B. Lucas, who is with us. When I see her and I see Dr. Lamiel Stanislaus, people who paved the way for all of us, and you see that I'm walking with a cane, Consul Generals and Sylvia Ash, Justice, and Dame Helen Lucas has no cane, and she's late 90s. Helene is good seeing you. Please stand and give her a round of applause. Yeah. She inspires all of us, and she make no bones of telling me, Roy, you know, I'm in my 90s, and late 90s, and I'm getting there. To our board of directors who are here, the members of the Diplomatic Corps, I mentioned we have 2 so far, I think, here from Barbados and St. Lucia and Dominica and Antigua. Okay. Somehow I didn't recognize you with your hairstyle. I know you will forgive me for that. But it's so nice to see all of you, always working so hard with the Borough President's Office and with CACI. And as Walter mentioned, you know, working together in partnership, collaborating on many issues, including to strengthen CARICOM. We do hope that one day we'll revive the CARICOM spirit that we had many years ago. To the members of the chamber, to our visiting delegates, so many of you, too numerous to mention, I have written a speech, but I'm going to ask my wife, who is here with me, Dr. Ida Hastic, professor, Commissioner. Give her a round of applause, who is here with us today. Deputy, she asked me to read the speech, but I decided this morning that I'm going to just scan through the speech. I am excited because for those of you who remembered when we started 9 years ago, Mr. Chase and Hulbert James and so on, we worked extremely hard to make sure that we have a Caribbean American Heritage Month. Jessica Ogle, and Eleanor Bernard, etc. And today it's history. We've received so far 3 proclamations, one from the President of the United States of America, one from the President of the great Borough of Brooklyn, which Brooklyn is really our first stop when it comes to the Caribbean, from the Caribbean. All of us stop right here, want to get on Eastern Parkway to see the West Indian Labor Day Parade. Am I right, Mr. Zama? There she is. Give her a round of applause for that. But what is more important is that we have just received another proclamation from the mayor of the city of New York, Bill de Blasio. Brooklyn is on the rebound. Just a few days ago, under the leadership of the Deputy Borough President and the President of the Borough, the Comptroller of the State of New York released a report on Brooklyn economic growth. In fact, Brooklyn is going, and Mark Lee, you might correct me if I'm wrong, but they're growing much faster than the other 4 boroughs. In the 2.6 million people population in the city, in the borough, close to 1/3 are of Caribbean descent, based on that economic report. And you should read it. We should have some copies outside. It shows you what Diana is saying, that, Joethia, we have something that we accomplished in this great borough. And the reason our keynote speaker today, Mark Lee Wilson, who actually worked with the Barbados Tourism Board many years ago when we met, and then headed CTO, and now he is the director of the Isle of New York Tourism Division with Governor Cuomo. And within the ESD, Empire Development, the governor sees that New York exports, New York's tourism, coming into the state of New York is something to be reckoned with. So we know that Brooklyn plays a very important role because of our numbers and our tourism that comes in here every year during the year and also Labor Day. But also, what is very important, it helps us here in the Caribbean American Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Derek James, who just walked in, and understand that you now ambassador. Congratulations. Stand. As my Consul General, he didn't call me to tell me, but I read it in the newspapers. But it's important for us as small business owners to make sure that we take advantage of the opportunities that are available through the Caribbean American Chamber of Commerce and Industry with our business services, through the city, through the borough, through the state, and on a federal level. We can only accomplish that if we continue, Judge, to collaborate with each other. We become stronger, our numbers grow, and there are times we're marginalized, but we have to revive that spirit of togetherness. And this is what today's session is all about, to remind us that we are one Brooklyn, we are one city, and we are one Caribbean. Let's hear it. We are one city, we are one Brooklyn, and we are one Caribbean. Because there is strength in numbers. The Borough President's office has been very, very kind to us, very supportive of our initiatives, our small business programs, supported by state, city, and federal allocations. But what is most important that's making history, as the deputy mentioned, is a place called the Flatbush Caton Market, the only microenterprise incubator that's still remaining here in the city of New York. And we are about to make history. The city is now reviewing the final 3 developers to develop the Flatbush Caton Market footprint, which includes the Flatbush Caton Market, the Caribbean American Trade Center and Culture Center. The Borough President insisted that we have a museum, a technology center, a community space. It's about 148,000 square feet of space, and we're going up 8 floors to develop 123 units of affordable housing. As you can see, I've learned a lot over the years in terms of development. But this is your project. And I want you to embrace it and support us as we take on and partner with the developer to develop this site so that we can have a place that we can say that's ours. And it's as we remember the people who have just passed away who paved the way for us, like Basil Patterson, Grenadian First Secretary of State, who died recently, son David Patterson from Carriacou, and also Maya Angelou. Two individuals, Maya Angelou of Trinidad and Tobago descent. So today is a day of reflection. Today is a day of renewed relationships, a day to meditate, concentrate, plan, network, because networking works. It works, I can tell you that. No man stands on an island by himself. We need each other to move forward. So my friends, enjoy your morning. I know we have a press conference. We're going to celebrate the honorees, but I hope I did not go over my time. I want to thank you very much. God bless you all. Reach out to the person next to you and give them a firm handshake and say, networking works. We are here to make money. And God bless America. Thank you very much.
Yes, networking works. And as an honorary member of the Caribbean American Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I urge you, as you network, you join CACI. We will continue with our program, and I'm going to try. We have, including our distinguished honorees, we have a room full of all of you of distinguished guests. So you'll bear with me because I have quite a few cards to acknowledge. So I want to start out with the Consul Generals, and if you would just wave your hand so that so the audience will see you. Julian Dubois, Consul General for St. Lucia. Lennox Price, Consul General for Barbados. And I have to congratulate, because I also have them as Consul General, Derek James, Ambassador now, Grenada. Judge Waveney Toussaint, Kings County Supreme. I think she had to leave. And we have Judge Sylvia Ash, Kings County Supreme Court. Justice Sylvia Ash. Well, I kind of like skipped over because the next speaker, our guest speaker, is Omaima David. She's the current chair of the CARICOM Consular Corps, and she's also the Deputy Consul General of Antigua and Barbuda. Will you please come to the podium and speak? All right. And I wanted to just bear with me for 1 second. Madison Bedard, one of our sponsors here for Coca-Cola, our sponsor for Caribbean American Heritage Month. Thank you for all that you do.
As the least among my fellow CARICOM colleagues, I'm both humbled and honored to be invited to bring you brief remarks here today. And what a time to be appointed to this position as chair of the Consular Corps. Those of you who follow the news back in the Caribbean region closely will be aware that general elections will be held in Antigua next Thursday. However, I do trust the judgment of my wiser colleagues who are convinced that they were strategic with this move to appoint me at this time, and I thank you for your show of confidence in my abilities. Ladies and gentlemen, I also wish to publicly thank President Adams for demonstrating his commitment to protecting the interests of the Caribbean community here in Brooklyn. Within 42 days after President Adams assumed office, he did something unprecedented for us as CARICOM Consuls General. He invited the entire Consular Corps to a special meeting here at Borough Hall, and this was the first time we were invited to such a meeting by a Borough President. And based on the discussions held at that meeting, it is clear to us that President Adams is setting a new paradigm for the office of the Borough President. He has opened a welcoming door for the CARICOM consulates in New York to work with his office, and we graciously accepted that invitation and look forward to working with him. Since then, the Bronx Borough President learned of the meeting and has invited the CARICOM Consuls General to meet with him at his office during the upcoming week. So we thank President Adams and his staff in his absence for being a trailblazer in that regard. I was asked to direct my remarks to the businessmen and women in the audience today, so please don't blame me if you don't fall into that category. Pastor Monroe's, Pastor Lane, the judges, electeds. I'm simply following instructions. After accepting the invitation to speak, I began giving some thought as to what I could say to the Caribbean business community. And then, as Dr. Hastic mentioned, a few weeks ago, the Office of the New York State Controller released that glowing economic snapshot of Brooklyn report, which the khaki newsletter summarized as Brooklyn is king of New York City economic growth. For a short moment, I considered contacting the office of the Borough President to decline the invitation. But remember the scripture that said, no one that put his hands to the plow and looketh back is fit for the kingdom. Based on the data released from the office of the New York State Controller, it appears to me that you are doing some right things here in Brooklyn. After all, Brooklyn is on the rebound. I'm aware that there are conflicting reviews of that newly released data, but as the Caribbean capital or Mecca of the United States, let's face it, this economic growth wasn't possible without the great contributions of you, the hard-working Caribbean American businessmen and women who have made Brooklyn your home, your place of employment, and your place of doing business. You have helped to shape the economic landscape of this borough, so Brooklyn's success is your success. As we celebrate Caribbean Heritage Month, I congratulate you for being part of this positive and encouraging Brooklyn story. And we can even say this positive New York story. I believe also that you, the proud Brooklynites by residence and those by other affiliations, have learned something from the Brooklyn economic success story. But we should also be compelled by the words of the recently departed Dr. Maya Angelou. When you learn, teach. When we get, give. You have knowledge and experience which can and should be shared with and imparted to our fellow Caribbean brothers and sisters, especially those in that place we often refer to as back home. This past December, InfoDev, a program managed by World Bank, released a report that examined the business and development interests of the Caribbean diaspora. It described the Caribbean diaspora as a well-educated and affluent group of individuals who have great potential to make valuable contributions to the Caribbean's economic development, both through the sharing of their knowledge and through the substantial financial resources they can bring to bear. According to the said report, about 80% of the diaspora holds a bachelor's degree or higher. Of those who participated in the study, more than 65% were employed in the private sector, with almost 40% owning their own businesses. These affluent and accredited individuals, such as yourselves, are of critical importance to making informed investments back in the Caribbean. You tend to have a level of investment sophistication and business acumen that promotes best practices among investees, demands accountability and results, and can have a major contribution to the development of the Caribbean economies. However, if the Caribbean region is to engage its diaspora in a meaningful way, it must give priority to these sources of dissuasion and work on ways to overcome the barriers that could have a significant impact on opening the door for more latent diaspora members to increase engagement. If the diaspora is to play an important role in the Caribbean's development story, it will require leadership and government and the private sector to lower barriers to engagement, facilitate structured opportunities, and increase information transparency. Policies addressing investment climate challenges, such as legal complexities and enforcement, can also provide a significant first step to lowering the barriers for engagement. So, how can we get the government and private sector leaders within the Caribbean region to understand and address the barriers to engagement and ultimately engage the diaspora in a more meaningful way? I believe that the time has come for the region to broaden its approach to investment and trade. And what do I mean by that? This week of June, this first week of June, which is observed annually as CTO Week, Caribbean Tourism Organization Week in New York, is a time when the CTO member countries and private sector partners get an opportunity to marry and showcase all the appealing and attractive features of the Caribbean in one celebratory event. However, as CTO struggles for sponsorships for some of its activities, and they're forced to cut back some of their programs, I believe that the body could best serve the region's interests at this time if a strong investment focus is added to its program. I'm not simply referring to tourism-related investments, but perhaps considering broadening the week-long activities from just focusing on tourism to hosting Caribbean Tourism and Investment Week in cities such as New York, Toronto, and London, etc. And during this week, we could collectively position the region not only as a place for travel and vacations, but as a place to invest in, whether in the area of education, mobile application, agribusiness, green energy, real estate, among other sectors. I also believe that this broadened focus will provide a viable platform for leaders from the Caribbean to meet with the Caribbean businessmen and women such as yourselves and organizations such as CACI within the collective diaspora, and provide opportunities for all partners to work together to address the barriers, implement recommendations, and explore various opportunities for attracting diaspora investment back home. The reality is that diaspora investment in the region can demonstrate to the rest of the world that the Caribbean has viable high-growth enterprises and is open for business. One of the responsibilities of the consulates is to attract investments to respective countries. Another is to work closely with the diaspora. So I wish to extend this challenge to my consular colleagues as well. Let us explore regional approach to diaspora investment and begin the dialogue of how the CTO mission and vision can be expanded to include Caribbean investment. No matter how long we have migrated, the Caribbean is and will always be referred to as back home. The Caribbean region needs some of the successful Caribbean-owned business stories, such as what is taking place in Brooklyn, to expand there. So let us make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair of the CARICOM Consular Corps. Deputy, I had asked for our staff who've been working so tirelessly on this event and the other Caribbean American Heritage events of this month to come in so that we could recognize them, but I think they're working so hard that they're not here. So I'm gonna go ahead and recognize who I see in the room, and then maybe if I miss someone, someone will tell me I missed them. Joe Fazell, as always, I always call on Joe, especially the last minute. Our tech. Catherine Kirk, our photographer. Trudy Aiken. Candace Julian. And this is by no means in order, okay? Bennett Baruch. Laurie Lewis. Reverend Dr. Valerie Dura. Pastor Guilford Montrose. Interns. Sergine Lewis, Wayne Clark Jr., Tabia Robinson. Did I miss anyone? Who? Rhea Smith. Anyone else? And Rhea is part of our committee, Caribbean American Heritage Committee, and she's been doing some great work for us. And so just bear with me. I have a bunch of cards, and I'm going to try to go through them respectfully. Malaka Shabazz, the youngest daughter of Malcolm and Dr. Betty Shabazz, human rights activist. Susan Vieira, President, School Construction Company Authority. Joe Iher, Consultant, Caribbean and International Affairs. Attorney Martin Lieberman, SCORE Representative at the United States Small Business Administration. Yolanda Lazema Clark, former president of the West Indian American Day Carnival Association. Mr. Miles Stewart, Vice President Carver Federal Bank. Hulbert James, former director of the Caribbean American Affairs Unit under Mayor David Dinkins' administration. Farah Louis, Director of Community Outreach. Council Member Jemani Williams' office. Melba Brown, State Committee Woman for District Leader 58 District. Tony Best, Publisher of New York Carib News. Corey Provost, Community Liaison for Comptroller Scott Stringer. Jessica Odell Barrell, former Consul General of Barbados. Bishop Cecil Riley, pastor of Freedom Hall Church. Godfrey David, president of James E. David Foundation. Dale DeGao, representative from Yvette D. Clark, Congresswoman Yvette D. Clark's office. Adrian Council, vice president of New York Community Bank. Daniel Jones, city controllers, the city controllers, state controller's office. Oh, there she is, Daniel Jones. Okay, so we will move on back to our program. Our next speaker, Markley Wilson, is the Director of International Marketing of the Empire State Development. I want to thank him personally on behalf of myself and Dr. Hastic. As we called on him at the last minute, he was able to accept our request for keynote speaker. Mr. Wilson, thank you.
Hello. I'm honored to be here and thrilled to have received the invitation. Let me start by acknowledging the respect that the governor has for you, members of CACI, the members of the Heritage Committee, and Brooklyn and all that Brooklyn represents. You collectively are deserving of great honor, and I'm thrilled to be here. Let me continue by following something that Roy did earlier, which is to digress from the written speech, because I'm inspired, and sometimes speaking from the heart is more effective than speaking from the script. To go back a little bit, for those of you who do not have gray hair or no hair, just to put things in context, many years ago, I ran the Barbados Tourist Office over here. I did that for 9 years. At that time, there were 2 organizations promoting and supporting tourism from the Caribbean. One was the Caribbean Tourism Association, and the other was the Caribbean Tourism Research Center, which did research. The directors of both organizations were the ministers of tourism of the Caribbean countries, and they decided that it made sense to combine those activities. I was hired out of Barbados to run the Caribbean Tourism Association, and then myself and the head of the Caribbean Tourism Research Center were asked to figure out what can be done so that the ministers can attend meetings and work together more efficiently and effectively. That resulted in the 2 of us defining the creation of what is now called the Caribbean Tourism Organization. And I was their first deputy director, and the head of the Caribbean Tourism Research Center was the director of that organization. It was a wonderful beginning, and I am still very proud of the things that I did when I was there. Even after I left them and formed my own consulting company, I was hired by them to continue one of the initiatives that I started, which was the creation of the first Caribbean Conference on Socially and Environmentally Responsible Tourism. That's changed a little bit since then, but it still continues. Anyway, now and for the past 16 years, I have been leading international tourism for the state of New York. Not the city, the state. And I give credit to that, number 1, to my Caribbean heritage. And the reason I am diverting from the script is because this is really an absolutely wonderful beginning. It's the beginning of the Borough President's reign. It's the beginning of a new relationship between CACI and the government, and it's the new relationship between all of us in the room and our plight to succeed more effectively. The foundation is there. I'm going to highlight some of the items in the script and presentation, but my goal right now is to stimulate in your mind the identification of one thing, one act, one project that we can work on together. I don't want to entertain you. I don't want to impress you. The interest is nothing else but results. So if from what you see and what you hear, you find something that you think we should be working together on, let's get together and do it, because never before has the opportunity been as effective and appealing as it is right now. I know this is going to mess you up quite a bit, Sage, because it's not exactly what we planned, but let's go. Tourism is my thing, as you might have gathered. And never before, and I've been with the State Tourist Office now for 17 years through different governors, et cetera. Never before have I experienced working for a governor who appreciates and supports tourism the way he does. It is incredible. And last year he organized a summit where he brought together everyone from across the state who's involved in promoting tourism to discuss it and figure out how we can work together more effectively. As a result of that, he gave us who promote tourism to the state the second biggest budget in the country to promote tourism, $60 million. Everything that we need to do, we are practically now doing. Those are some of the numbers that illustrate the results of his commitment and the action that he empowered us to take after the summit. So, we now have one of the most effective tourism promotion programs in the country. I take it that some of you might have seen some of the advertisements on the television, at the airports now, in those spaces where when you enter, you're walking to go to customs or immigration. They're no longer blank walls. We are now pasting those walls with images of things that visitors can do in New York State. We have a partnership with MTA. We are now present in Times Square, where there's 1 or 2 visitors each day. The amount of activities that we are undertaking to increase awareness of New York State and appreciation of it is unprecedented, and working really well. In terms of international, which is my specific responsibility, and I should highlight, this is really an area for you to give serious consideration to, because the international visitor, let's look at New York City, for instance. The international visitor is about 20% of the visitors to New York City. The international visitor spends 51% of the money that's spent by visitors in New York City. And because Brooklyn is so sexy and so exciting and so cool, all right, the potential for Brooklyn to benefit from international visitors is incredible. My responsibility is international tourism to New York State. I love Brooklyn. All right? So we need to find ways of working together to promote tourism to Brooklyn as we promote tourism to New York State. And we have a couple of dollars to promote tourism to New York State.
To Brooklyn.
Well, Brooklyn is part of New York State. Is it not?
It's the center.
All right? Yeah. A lot of what we do, a lot of the messages that we communicate are designed to let the world know that New York is a little more than the Statue of Liberty and Times Square. Because it is much more than that. That is our goal. That is our goal. We need you to help us to get that message across. We need to work with you to communicate what Brooklyn represents. Continue. You, the people of the Caribbean, make up a very vital part of what Brooklyn represents. Your heritage, our heritage, the ways in which you express it, our food, our festivals, the things we make, the way we enjoy, the way we express ourselves, they all represent potential tourism assets. And other countries, other states, other regions are highlighting them more effectively than they are being highlighted for Brooklyn. Now that you have the wonderful leadership that you do, let's find a way of collaborating in order to highlight and promote those assets of Brooklyn together. We can do it. The youth is an important part of Brooklyn to think about. The millennials, like Sage there, who's 21 years old, who started working with me when he was on break from high school and is now working with me again. What he represents, what he thinks about, the power that he and people like him represent needs to be respected and paid attention to. Let's find a way of doing it for the benefit of Brooklyn. Those are some examples of things that are being done to promote Brooklyn by companies and individuals who are based in Brooklyn who are young like Sage. I know the word China was on the screen at some point. That's important. We have just opened offices in 4 cities in China, the first of this month. The potential from China is mind-boggling. We will be organizing a series of workshops throughout the state to enable New Yorkers to figure out what the Chinese visitors like and what do we do to ensure that they are happy, and each customer from China becomes a salesperson. Would you like to be part of that? Oh, yes. Then you will be. That's just one example of potential action steps and ways in which we can and should collaborate. The whole idea of tech is, again, that's a word that I wanted to highlight. When looking at Brooklyn and Caribbean people from Brooklyn, the majority of what you produce is a service of some form. There is the need for more non-service products and items to be produced. We have the state, Empire State Development, Startup New York, which is a wonderful new program designed to empower companies to form, to establish themselves, and to succeed in New York State. We are giving such companies a 10-year tax-free holiday, and a 10-year tax-free holiday is not insignificant. We can work with you on this. It's new. There's every opportunity to capitalize on this initiative with Empire State Development. So give some thought to Startup New York, and let's connect on it. I'm not going to continue. I'm not going to give you any more at this point. I hope from what I just went through, you have a sense of who we are, opportunities that exist, and possible ways in which we can collaborate. My one suggestion is that you find ways of getting together, deciding on what 2, 3, 4, or 5 projects you want to pursue with us, and let me know. Thank you.
It's universal. That burst of adrenaline you feel coming over the Brooklyn Bridge as the skyline comes into view. As you cross the river, every inch of you is aware you are heading into the greatest city in the world. Head north, and the next day you're hiking to the sky-high birthplace of the Hudson, Lake Tier of the Clouds near the summit of Mount Marcy. I love New York. Riding the elevator to the 102nd floor of the Empire State Building and rappelling down the sheer rock face of the Gunks. The lights of Times Square washing over you and the spray of Niagara Falls as you drift on the Maid of the Mist. Majestic beaches of Long Island, the pulsating crowds of Yankee Stadium, or the legendary Boys of Summer in Cooperstown. I love New York. It's fashionistas cherry-picking on Fifth Avenue, families apple-picking in the Hudson Valley, or speedboating around the Thousand Islands. New York is the heart-wrenching beauty of a horse-drawn carriage, or the heart-stopping thrill of the thoroughbreds in Saratoga. It is the multicultural Mecca that is Manhattan, and the cultural haven that is Chautauqua Institute, or the bouquet of an award-winning vintage from the Finger Lakes. But there's another reason I love New York. New York is a constant state of discovery. You have to see what's just around the corner, over the hill, through the bend in the river, and on the other side of the mountain. There's so much more to New York than you think. There's always another reason why. I love New York.
Brooklyn.
Right, thank you. We love Brooklyn. Thank you. Mr. Wilson, I don't know how many of you know that the Borough President launched a volunteerism initiative. So you may have picked up a little blue and white card. Please utilize that. So Mr. Wilson, I want to say, in the spirit of you indicating that you will work with our office, can we have sage? Just saying, we need volunteers. I have to take things out of order a little bit because one of our honorees need to leave, so I will break with the program, the lineup that you see in the program for just a minute as we call our first honoree to the dais. And we've got such a distinguished number of honorees. Our first honoree that we will acknowledge today is Dr. Ruth Brown. Thank you. Lifetime Achievement Award. You heard Dr. Hastic speak about Grand Dame Helen B. Lucas. She is our Lifetime Achievement Award honoree for 2014. Please put your hands together for Dame Helen B. Lucas. Our next honoree is the Entrepreneur Award, but he had to leave. David Gale, and his wife is representing him. Is she here? Joanne Gale? She left us well? Okay. So we will move on to the next honoree. Reverend Eddie Allen, St. Gabriel's Episcopal Church. And I must say, my church.
And Helen's
come
church.
on, Helen's church. Our next honoree couldn't be here as well. Thomas Bailey, President of the West Indian American Day Carnival Association. Is there anyone here to receive his award? Yes? Thank you, Yolanda Lizema Clark. Our next award goes to Ernest Baptiste, Executive Director of Kings County Hospital Center. Here to receive it is Natasha Burke. Our next honoree, Lucina Clark, Executive Director, My Time, Inc. And not only you could read about their accomplishments in the program, but please direct your attention to the monitors that talk about their proudest moments. Our next award goes to Cynthia Brown Franklin, former Vice Consul General of Panama. Our next honoree is Emily James, President of the Canarsie Merchants Association. I want to thank you on behalf of Borough President Eric Adams and the Deputy Borough President Diana Rayner for coming out today. On behalf of CACI, we wish you a safe home.